Right, welcome to Bring It Coaching Podcast. This is episode 6. This will be now. So for this episode, I've brought on a special guest, a very exciting guest, none other than Ollie Russel. How you doing, mate?
Hello. I'm good, thanks, mate. Yeah, all
Good
good.
man, good
All
man.
good.
So Ollie is a very special talent athlete. Someone I wanted to bring onto the pod because when I think of Ollie, I've not known you for too long, to be honest, but from obviously speaking to you and having conversations and just watching you from a back seat, from the, observing from what you've done, the first thing that sort of comes to my mind is David Goggins. Sort of
Oh God,
a figure that
not quite his level.
maybe not his level, but for someone that's at such a young age, to be fair, I feel like you've got a lot of potential, and the things that you're doing right now, it just seems like the sky's the limit. And even then, it's like, how far can you really take this? But before we do go into who you are and what you do, what I like to do with this podcast, Ollie, is just talk about yourself in the sense of give us a fun fact. Can be anything random about yourself. If you don't mind sharing anything that's fun about yourself, or any sort of experience you've had that's been quite an interesting one.
Fun fact.
Put you on the spot now.
Geez, yeah, you put me right on the spot. Gosh. Fun fact. I can't think.
I've just given you a special introduction there.
Yeah, I know.
Seconds, so you got to be something
really
good, mate.
To think now. Quick. Oh, I love swimming in my budgie smugglers. There you go.
in your budgie smugglers. So what are they?
In my budgie smugglers. In my Tighty Speedos. Yeah, I'm that guy. That's my fun fact. That's all I can think about at the minute.
Is it?
Yeah. I'm that guy that will wear their Speedos in the swimming pool while everyone's wearing wetsuits and stuff. I'm like almost butt naked.
Any particular colour there, Ollie? Any special choice of colour?
You know what? I've got pink budgie smugglers with the eggplant emoji all over them. So yeah, I'll ping you a photo after this. But
mate, please do.
I don't know how you react to it.
Well, what we could do is use that as the cover photo for this podcast, mate. So
you know what? I think that you'll get so many viewers just from that.
No, that sounds good, mate. Sounds good. So yeah, man, let's so obviously I think I've met you, was it last year now, around the hyrox? Well, have we known each other before that?
I think after the Birmingham hyrox in October, when I started going over to Forders, and then I started catching you in a couple sessions. Yeah. And since then, so it's not even a year.
No, it's coming up to the year. So
it feels like it's been longer.
It does. And I think you're one of those sort of characters where you're easy to get along to. You can just sort of click, and you're just open-minded and easy to talk to. That's really good to see and really good to be around. So let's talk about, let's go way back to the beginning then, because you've done, right now you're currently the hyrox under, what's the age bracket, if you don't mind me asking?
Under 24. I know I don't look 24, but
under 20. And that's what's really remarkable about it, because you're so young and you've achieved so much. So under 24 world champion in terms of did you go to Vegas? You went to Vegas, didn't you?
Yeah, so I originally won the Birmingham one, which is the one just before I met you, and then all the winners from each hyrox around Europe and America, wherever they hold them, then go towards and fight for the number one spot in which was then held in Vegas. I can't remember what month it was now, but so I competed in my age group. Yeah, over there.
Nice. So you're currently the Birmingham champion under 24, and alongside, your journey goes back prior to that. So you've done ultra runs. Have you done one? You've done that, or you were preparing for one, or?
Yeah, and that's another whole story about. I've done one ultra run, and it was probably the worst experience of my life.
All right, okay.
As in, like, just the preparation I did for it was just diabolical.
Yeah.
I was struggling with injuries and stuff like that, but it was a great experience. And then knowing how to train for the next one, I'm a lot more switched on about it now.
So for those that don't know, what is an ultra run there, Ollie?
I guess an ultra can be anything above a marathon. So your marathon's, what is it, 26 point, I want to say 3 miles. It could be 28 miles. As soon as you go past that marathon, that is, traditionally known as an ultra. So, but then you can go right up to 100 miles or anything just over.
Brilliant, brilliant. Oh man, that's something that I don't wouldn't do in my lifetime. So fair play to you, mate. Okay, cool. That sounds good. So you've done the run, you've done this hyrox, and even prior to that, you played rugby for a long time. I've seen you do some. You did a strongman event as well. I saw a photo of you. You did a strongman event previously.
Oh, so that was a strongman. That was a strongman workout. So
Right.
it wasn't a strongman event. It was. I know which one you're on about. So I had a CrossFit competition, and because of CrossFit, you tie in loads of different like aspects of like of fitness, and that was a strongman workout, and it was with the Atlas stones, which was my first time even going anywhere near a stone, and I absolutely loved it. If I can say to anyone to like have a go at them, like have a go, and yeah, it's great fun.
No, brilliant. Sounds good. So you've got yourself, in different areas of fitness and training and stuff. And we'll talk about, each one a bit later. But let's go right back to the beginning then, which is what I like to normally do with guests on here. Let's talk about, like, as early as you can remember, how did you like get involved around fitness? What's your earliest memory around it? Like school days? What was it like growing up around in your area and stuff, in your environment? What was it like?
So around in the area I live in, so over Dorridge, Solihull way, we've got literally, there's all sports. It's amazing. You can literally get thrown into any sport you want almost. And coming from my mum and dad playing a lot of sport already, they were just so keen to get me and my brothers involved. I've got an older brother and younger brother, and I was probably the one that kind of naturally just was okay at the sports, and I could pick it up a bit easier than my brothers. So I was just trying to do everything, anything from rugby, athletics. We'd go play tennis, badminton, so racket sports. I played basketball, but from a young age, it was rugby and football. And then I was just every single weekend, it was either I'd pick rugby, and then the next weekend it'd be football, and bouncing between those two.
Brilliant. Yeah. So you mentioned that your parents played a lot of sport. Then were they involved in any particular sport, or was it just?
Yes. My dad was like a ex rugby player. Never played like the top elite level, but a respectable standard. And that was his main sport growing up, and he did athletics and whatnot. And then my mum was athletics, netball, and horse riding. So around us, we've got Solihull horse riding literally around the corner. So she did show jumping. I've not been on a horse. No. I like horses, but I don't trust myself getting on a horse. So I stay clear of that one.
No, fair enough. That's interesting you say that, because normally, like, I say normally, but from what I'm used to, my parents and my even clients that I chat to, they tend to do stuff in their early days, and as they grow older, get married or get in with a partner and have kids, they tend to put all that sporting stuff in the back seat, and so then they stop doing those things, those hobbies, and taking part in sport. But in your case, it was different. It was a case of your parents, they continued with their sporting background and keeping fit, so that must have been a real big influence as to obviously how you are today, then, isn't it?
100%. Like, I think obviously when my mum had my older brother, then myself, and then 5 years after me, my younger brother, that's where her sort of like athletic career, she just wasn't able to do so much because we were doing so much. I do remember from a young age going to watch my dad play in a couple games here and there, but I think as soon as you get in, like they're in his, what I want to say, mid-30s, and he just starts getting injured. He ruptured his Achilles, so that put him out for quite a while. So it was trying to be like, right, does he keep pushing to play, or does he just take a bit of a backseat and just, jump on? We used to have a rowing machine that he used to just go absolutely crazy on all the time, which was also in my room. So I used to get booted out of my room, and then he'd go sit on the rower. So he just loved fitness. And we loved all watching sport, whether it was watching each other play or, top professional athletes play. It was just any sport we wanted to watch. So yeah, they were huge on it, huge on the sport.
No, that sounds brilliant, man. So what key things, like, would you say you learned from watching, your parents and watching sport from, TV? And so what were some of the key things that you learned from that, and what did you take away?
Because it was such a young age, I think it's just like I knew what sports they both did. So I was like really wanting to get into those sports. And then you find out like what level my dad used to play. So he got up to Warwickshire County standard, and then that was straight in my head. I was like, right, that's my goal. I want to make it to playing county level rugby. My mum used to remember her sort of like different running times in athletics. And then it was like, yeah, I want to try and beat those. So it was, we have a really competitive family, and we're all trying to beat each other, but it's fun. It's fun competitive. It doesn't get too sour. Occasionally it does, especially with me and my younger brother. But it was just a nice like competitive environment. So we're always pushing each other. And my mum and dad, especially my dad, it wasn't, if you're going through a hard session when you're a younger kid, most parents would be like, okay, it's okay, like let's maybe pull back a bit. And my dad was like, fifth gear, full throttle, and he was like, nah, like you're doing another set.
Wow, that's interesting. That is. So he was pretty like, full on with Jay. He didn't let you, have any room for error, or
no, completely. Yeah, the first question I used to ask my dad after a rugby game, football game, mainly rugby games, because that became my main sport as I got a bit older. And the first question was, it shouldn't be the first question, but I said, what did I do wrong? More like, what can I do better? Nice. But he would then point out all the negatives and work-ons, and like, you missed one tackle, or you missed that, because we were chasing perfection. And I might have the best game in the world, I'd still come off the pitch and say, what did I do wrong? Like that was honestly the question we would have every single time we got in the car and headed home. And then he'd tell me what, and then he'd say, try this next time. So it was always, he'd give me what I did wrong, and then it was like, okay, how can I improve that? Which I think that is really important, because there's so many people that just go, not like you're crap, but they just sort of kind of shit on you a little bit, and then they don't give you, okay, this is what you can do to help that. Excuse my French, I don't know if that's going to get
no, mate,
out.
Don't worry, mate. You can open up as much as you want on this, mate.
Start effing and jeffing.
Yeah, no, that's interesting again, because so obviously he's your father, and so he was like almost a coach for you then, isn't it? So that's
he was my coach. Okay, it was dad and coach. Both literally the same level. So he ended up becoming our rugby coach at the local rugby club, and he also helped out over at athletics, but his main coaching knowledge was with rugby.
Wow, that's massive. And that's a massive impact on your growth and your development, and even like yourself coming off the games and seeing where you can improve. That's massive. And to have that instant feedback from your dad, that must have been, it's amazing. That's something personally I never had. So I'd have like my mom come to the games, even like my dad used to come to like sports days from early on, but it's just more like just for the fun and enjoyment, and just be like, oh, well done, you did really well. And you think, okay, yeah, I did really well. What more else can I do? So yeah, man, you had a real good head start there, man.
That's the I think that's the ongoing thing with parents who are just, giving all positive. It's great to be great to kids and say, oh, you're doing really well, but sometimes you do have to say like, no, you've not done that very well, but how can we try and like make it better? So you've got to be honest. I think even with kids that are like a bit younger, you do have to be honest and say, right, you're not the best person on the team, but let's see what we can do and help you.
Brilliant. No, it sounds good. So let's talk about your rugby, not little, but what's your rugby career like? So obviously you said that you went into that, you head into that sport more over football and other things. How far did you take it, and why did you stop?
So yeah, so when I said I was dipping between rugby and football, that probably lasted a couple of years. Then I actually picked football over rugby.
Okay.
Started playing football, got into the Blues Academy
Wow.
from a very young age, playing there, and I just found I just wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And then I picked rugby back up. I was a bit physical, and
Yeah.
I couldn't stand losing. And I used to want to like charge and just like smack someone, but you couldn't really do that with football. So then I went back into rugby, and I just took off with it and loved it. And I think they don't really start the academies that young. So when I was about, I think it was 14, 15, like the football academies, they start ridiculous age.
Very young,
But
yeah.
with rugby, don't start really till 14, 15. Went over to Worcester Warriors, was there for a couple of years. Actually got dropped from Worcester Warriors, which was like life shattering. I mean, I was in pieces in the car on the way home.
Oh,
And then
no.
within a week, I had a trial over at Leicester Tigers and went over, had a great sort of couple of weeks training with them. And then I signed an academy contract at 16 when I left school, and I had about a 2-3 day summer before I moved over to Leicester for pre-season training.
Oh, wow.
And then I was with Leicester for about 3 years. It's a tough gig. I kind of sort of, as I got about a year and a half in, I was like, I don't think I'm going to make a big career out of this, with injuries getting in the way and just with other amazing players as well in my position. So I had a great time doing it, and just ended up coming out. And I still dip in and out of rugby here and there, but that's probably the furthest I took it, getting over into the Leicester Tigers Academy.
Wow. So if it wasn't for the being dropped at, was it Worcester you said?
Yeah, Worcester.
Like, how did you, obviously you said you sort of were shattered, and that was you. Did you ever think at that point like the dream's over? Like, how did you deal with all that rejection of not getting picked further?
Well, when you're at such a young age, it's you think it's like the end of the world, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was just one of those where I kind of just had to take it on the chin and accept that, that's one club. And my dad was very good at talking to me with like this kind of stuff. He goes, there's one club out of however many other clubs in the country that are playing Premiership at that top level. So he goes, let's just start messaging. And we sent emails to other clubs, sending my sort of rugby videos over. And like I said, within a week, I had, I think we had Newcastle, Gloucester, Leicester, maybe Bath as well, all message back and say, yeah, let's bring you in for a trial. So they were all giving me a chance basically. And I was a bit of a Leicester fan anyway. So that's why I sort of was like, actually, let's try and try that one out. And it's a bit closer. So
Yeah. Wow, that's brilliant, man. So you basically turned it around, didn't let it stop you from going forward. And that's, I think that's in today's world, in today's environment, I think a lot of people tend to give up on making progress, and not, when they don't reach a specific goal, they do tend to like give up. What's your experience with working with people? Because obviously you're a coach yourself, you work with clients. How do you, what's your sort of take on, working with clients and gearing them towards, because obviously I guess you've learned stuff from your dad, and over time you've been able to put it into practice. What's your experience like as a coach in that regard then?
Oh God, you have so many like, you'll know yourself, you have so many different experiences with different people. When I first started out coaching, it was mainly just for people who are looking for fat loss goals, just to get general fitness up and that kind of stuff. So when those kind of people are seeing you, the majority of them aren't into fitness like as much as somebody who is playing a sport, because the people who are playing a sport, they're giving up their own time to go play that sport. So what I found with like coaching people who are for fat loss, you've almost got to like keep on them, and I just keep messaging them, and you do end up having the same conversation over and over, which is fine, because sometimes people just need it rebooting. But when I've got so now I've got a few more athletes on board, it's just built into them, so I don't need to keep saying give these motivational speeches every single week, which was I used to find it very tiring. So that's why I kind of came away from the fat loss stuff, and I started pushing more sport performance, because I like working with athletes who are like, right, I want to get as much information out of you as possible as a coach. And that's what I used to be like with my dad. So I'm literally getting, I just feel like I'm sort of, roles are reversed. I'm being my dad to these people who are coming to see me. I'm not their dad, but
yeah. No, that's brilliant. No, that's really good. So obviously, your whole life you played sport. Did you ever think you were gonna, be a coach? And what was your, after the sort of rugby sort of fell off and you got injured, what was the point at then when you thought like, okay, where do I go from here now? What was the mindset like at that point?
Oh, great question. So that was the goal before I stopped playing rugby full on, was I wanted to be a professional athlete. That was it. I had nothing else in my mind, nothing else at all. But then during my rugby career, when I started coming towards the end of it, when I was over at Leicester, I just loved being in the gym environment, and I just absolutely loved it. I loved improving on all my lifts, and just like the environment of like helping each other out. And that's where me and my mum sort of started looking, and we were like, actually, I could become a coach, whether it's a rugby coach, whether it's an S&C coach, a PT, whatever it is. I get on with people, and I want to help other people. So yeah, it was a really nice, easy crossover. Because while I was over at Leicester, I did my rugby coaching qualification, and then I started helping out with the under-15s academy, with the backs, and just doing a few moves in the back line for them. And I loved it. I loved not being in control, but I loved just helping them, and they were so keen to learn. And I was like, there's nothing better from a coach just to have, like, I don't know, you got 20 people in front of you, and they're all like eyes peeled and just ready to just like draw as much information out of you as possible. And that's what it was, just such an easy turnover into this coaching. So I didn't think I was going to be a coach, and I've probably taken a complete different route to most coaches who kind of train athletes and stuff, because most will go and do either a sports science degree or an S&C degree at university. I've just not been to university, and I've just gone and done courses and reading books, and just really got into it that way.
No, that's brilliant. So what's your perspective on university? Do you think it's overrated, would you say? Is there any particular reason why you didn't go, or?
Well, because at the time it was just pure rugby, and I honestly hated studying. I was on the side of rugby because you have to keep studying until you're 18. I was at college over in Leicester doing like a BTEC sport, and I just hated it. I hated every single topic. I hated being in a classroom environment. I just wanted to be out on the pitch training and in the gym. And then now coming into like my mid-20s, I look back at that and I think, or actually now I would like to go back and then really look at my BTEC sport, or maybe even look at an option of going to uni and trying to juggle and do rugby part-time and then do university studies part-time. But that just wasn't the path I took. And and to be honest, I've even looked at potentially going back and doing like a university course, and I think it would be great. But now I've got my business up and running with the coaching, I don't think I could find the time to then do a full-time university studies, unless I know you can do part-time, but it then comes all the funding and all of that. So I think for me, it's just I'll probably try and learn as much as I can organically through, there's so much stuff on social media. I follow these great coaches that you can just pick and choose like little bits and bobs. And then just reading as well. So I don't think you need to do university.
No, that's brilliant. That's a good opinion on that. That's really good. Because I took the university route and nowhere near had the experience that you had. And for me, my angle of it is like, man, I wish I had more experience growing up through those ages. Even I mean, don't get me wrong, during university, we we picked up experience working with the the athletes of the university and stuff. But just having that that sporting background that you had, I didn't really take as far, and it does pay off, and it's evident that it does. That's really good.
And I've heard that of a few people. I think experience is, you can't beat experience, and being in the environment of coaching, yes, you might not have the knowledge at the start to back it up, but if you're just around it all the time, then you're gonna be there. And like in university, it's pen and paper and on your laptop and stuff, but when you're actually thrown into the mix and it's like, right, you're going to coach this person to get from A to B, and you're like, oh, you're kind of thrown in the deep end, but you do it somehow because you ask question. It's about asking the right people questions, because you can ask loads of questions, but you can ask the wrong people those questions and they give you false information. So it's just about, I'm a bit, not a nose, but I will go out and ask other coaches who I know their information and like education stuff is just out of this world, and I will just reach out to them and ask as many questions as I can.
No, brilliant. Yeah, it's the way, it's the curiosity, isn't it? You have to be there and put yourself in those positions. Brilliant. So rugby, you finished that. So what was the injury? What was the biggest injury that sort of knocked you off?
I don't think I was one big injury. I mean, I've been knocked out, I want to say 3 times from rugby. I've actually been knocked out 5 times, but the other 2 times are me just being an idiot. One I fell out of a tree, and another one, I was back at school and I somehow passed myself out. So yeah, 3 of them were from rugby, 2 of them were from stupidity. So yeah, I mean, the concussions and that they weren't horrendous, but my ankles and knees, when I was playing rugby, it was my ankles and knees that just kept going. I kept rolling over my ankles, or if I whacked my knee pretty hard on the floor, it would just inflame. So yeah, lower body wise, I was all sound. Upper body, which is pretty odd for a rugby player, because you're hitting these collisions like with your shoulders, and my shoulders seem to be pretty sound. It wasn't until after rugby that's when all my upper body started buggering up and my lower body was all right. I was like, oh, it's just flipped on its head.
No way. Okay, no, that's interesting. So rugby's pretty much taking a back seat, or you're not doing as much at a competitive level.
Yeah.
What do you then pick up from there? What do you pick up from? Is it did you go into CrossFit from there then, is it? Or
yeah, so how I got into CrossFit was watching a guy called Rich Froning, and he had a documentary out that CrossFit had filmed his career from when he first started to winning the CrossFit Games 4 times in a row. And I remember watching this documentary, and I was like this, just like, oh my god, this guy's like Superman. And I just was like, I want to do that. And I was looking at like closest CrossFit gyms online where I could go to, and I didn't actually, because with a CrossFit gym, they're not big gyms usually, especially around in the Midlands, and they had full capacity when I first wanted to go, so they said they couldn't actually take on any more members. So I was a bit bummed out by that. So then I just then I had a bit of an odd period where I didn't really know what to do. I started labouring. I then applied for the Marines. I went through a couple months of Marines training. That wasn't for me. Came out, and then I was like, what do I do? And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and get into this CrossFit gym again. And went over and got in, and I've not looked back since. It was probably one of the best things I've ever done. It's like a big old family in there, like very much like over at Fulder's gym.
Wow. So there's a point in life where you thought, okay, sporting, becoming an athlete wasn't on the cards. Where do you turn from there, man? It must have been like, because that's all you've known all your life, isn't it? So
yeah. Totally.
What was that period like for you then? Obviously not entirely sure where you were going then. What sort of things, emotions were you going through?
Emotionally, for about, I want to say maybe 1.5 to 2 years, I just wasn't in a good place at all. I thought I was, but it was not a good place. And I think I was emotional, I was angry. At the same time, you know, things were going on with the family, and it was just all hitting me at once. And I was a bit like, oh God. And I would feel sorry for myself. But then it wasn't until I stopped feeling sorry for myself and I was like, right, the only person that can get me out of this is me. And I was like, before I found that out, I was just not a nice person to people. And then, like I said, when I started just like, right, suck it up and just crack on, get on with it. As soon as I started being a bit more thorough with myself, it just changing little things throughout those 2 years. And then I was like, okay, I feel so much better. But yeah, it was a tough 2 years, not knowing what I wanted to do. Yeah, it was tough.
No, I can imagine, because I think that's something that a lot of people go through nowadays. And, you know, especially when people that go to university and they come out and they're like, you know, I've got a degree and you know, I want to start working right away, but it doesn't always plan out that way. And even myself, I went through a little spell of that as well, like not knowing what to do and whatnot. So, I mean, what would you say to anyone that is in that position right now? Like, how can they really pull themselves out of it? Because you said there, you were the only person that could get yourself out when you realize that, but a lot of people can't really see that when they're currently in it. So what would you say to someone who is going through that, and how do they actually physically, mentally pull themselves out of it?
That's a really good question. Like I said, I was the one that pulled myself out, but you're the only one that can change your actions. But by talking to people and just getting help off other people, like your family at the end of the day, they're going to help you out, aren't they? So just saying, right, I need to get myself from here to there. How are we going to do it? Almost exactly like how when I was playing rugby, and after like a game, I'd ask my dad, right, what was the bad things that I did? Okay, that's that. How do we now get over to there? Like, it's me that's got to get over there, but I can get advice on how to get there. Because too many people, I think, just close all the doors down on everyone and they don't want any help. And they feel like they're in it forever. But 2 years ago, like, that was when I was sort of going through my rough patch, and it just went like 2 years is nothing. It's absolutely nothing. So I would probably say just open up to someone. It could be absolutely anyone that you're just comfortable to talk to, and just ask for a bit of advice. I know it sounds so silly and so easy to do, but it's quite hard to do, to actually just go and open up to someone. But that's the first step to being onto this like path that where you want to get to.
Brilliant. No, that's really good. That's really good. And I think, obviously, as we're all pretty much aware, there is like a stigma around men opening up, and especially from my experience and in my culture, it was really like a taboo for men in our culture to really open up about these things. We just thought, yeah, we'd get on with it. But I think it's sort of worldwide across the whole men sort of sphere and stuff. So that's really interesting. I appreciate you sharing that. Okay, so now you're at this CrossFit gym. Tell me more about that. What's going on at this CrossFit gym that you joined? How do you then take it to the next step?
So this CrossFit gym is literally like my second family, and especially when I was in that sort of rough patch for the 2 years, they'd all took me on because I was like the youngest one in there, and so being there also really helped because they brought me up. So I was looking at everyone who was like in their late 20s, early 30s, and people even in their 40s and stuff, and I just ended up becoming great pals with them. And I think I joined when I was 19, 20. So they just brought my maturity up, and they were all just so nice. So that was also another massive factor that brought me up. You know, if you hang around not so good people, guess what? You're going to end up not so good. So it's definitely the group you surround yourself with. But being over that CrossFit gym, I fell in love with CrossFit. Immediately was like, I want to go do my coaching qualifications for CrossFit. So I went on a level 1 coaching course, which was a 2-day one, which was great. Met again loads of people from all walks of life. And that's the thing about CrossFit, like you could meet people like all religions, absolutely anyone across the whole country, whole of the UK. I think we even had some people from over Europe as well. And it was just such a great sort of weekend, and just learning how to coach. And then basically just started coaching over at the CrossFit gym and doing classes, starting to get a bit more comfortable. And then I was like, actually, I quite like this coaching gig. And so I went on and did my personal training level 2 and 3, got a job over at a private gym, got some experience for just under 2 years coaching, sort of in the fat loss game. And then came away from that and just set up on my own and tried to be in my little niche with sports athletes.
Brilliant, brilliant. And what was, and that experience of going through, like, gaining those qualifications and, being around such people who are, a lot older than you, what were some of the key things that you took away from that? What did you learn from that?
Oh, doing the qualification. Obviously, the qualifications are just, it's a tick in the box. Like, you do need them, but you don't learn until you're thrown in, and you're learning like on the job. So yes, go get the qualifications because you need it for insurance and things like that. But actually going in and doing the job and doing as many coaching hours as possible. And I was coaching such great people, but also over at our CrossFit gym, you might have Karen in the corner who's in her 60s, and then you might have Kyle, who's an 18-year-old young buck lad who can do all the movements. And it's like, right, how can I coach her over there to do this workout that we've got on the board to suit her the best? And then how can I coach Kyle over there to make it suit him? So it was really like versatile. It was learning how to coach her and then how to coach him, and then all the people in between as well. So you learn how to sort of adapt and change the workouts to suit someone.
Brilliant. No, that's really good stuff. So at this point then, so you obviously now your focus is turned to coaching and gaining the qualification experience. Where was the sport? Obviously, was it just all about CrossFit then for you as an athlete then? Did you have were you aspiring to compete in the games and stuff, or what sort of, where was
that
at then?
as soon as I seen that documentary that I mentioned about Rich Froning, I just was like, right, how far can I take this? And I already had quite a good base level of fitness going into CrossFit. It was just then about learning the movements, and it's you've got so many different aspects of fitness, and trying to shove it all into one program it's almost impossible. So you've got to go through phases and work on an aspect of your fitness in this sort of couple months of training, then work on the next couple months on something else, and it takes years and years to get to that top level in CrossFit, because they're shifting some serious numbers in their compound lifting, Olympic lifting. Then they're also running and rowing some ridiculous times in their 2K rows, 5K running, and it's really hard to do both. So you need a good, I would say, a good 5 years of just like absolutely just dedication of doing all this stuff. And I think I probably was full on CrossFit for just over a year, and then again, like, injuries with my shoulder, and then that puts you back, and then you try and get in a bit too quick. And then I kind of came away from CrossFit for about half a year because of working as a PT over at this private gym, and then trying to find the time to fit it all in. And it's tough. Like, I had a full level of respect for these guys that make it to that top level. And I know CrossFit it says CrossFit, you do everything, but I was still wanting to jump into rugby occasionally, still trying to jump onto like some long distance running. Now the hyrox is here, that I've been jumping into that a bit. So I think if you want to make it in CrossFit, you do CrossFit. And it's like, well, trying to make it in any sport, you put all your focus and dedication into that, and that's where you'll get better. I was probably trying to do a bit too much, so I wasn't able to like make those little 1% differences.
Yeah, no, that's understandable, because obviously recently I've just done that strongman competition, and I was chatting to the guy who organized it, and he just said, if you want to take it seriously, he goes, the problem with people is, like you just mentioned, people will try to do other things around, bodybuilding training or powerlifting, but if you want to compete in strongman, it just needs to be just strongman. I thought to myself, actually, you know what, he's right there. And I thought to myself, should I really, sorry about that, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Sorry, man. He was just saying to me, you just got to do focusing on strongman. And I thought to myself, you're right there. Is that really what I want to do? Probably not. So I'm a bit like yourself when it comes to like trying things now. Well, more so now, really. I'm up for like trying different things. That's interesting. So let's talk about obviously now you've been coaching now for a few years, and then comes the hyrox last year, 2021, was it?
2021.
How did you get onto that? How did you discover that?
Had no clue about it until they were doing like a gym tour of the UK, and they came to CrossFit Solihull, and I didn't even know that I thought they were just doing this gym tour. I didn't even know that they were doing like an event in Birmingham.
Right.
Until when they came to our gym tour and they told us, because they did this, they call it the hyrox PFT, and they do this sort of like condensed version of the big one. And we all came in on a Saturday morning. We had a great vibe in the gym. The two guys from hyrox, Ollie, who we've trained with over at Forder's gym, he came in, so that was the first time I met him. And we did this workout, and as we were sort of halfway through, Paul, our the guy who owns CrossFit Solihull, was like, what he said to the guys, what's a respectable time and like for this PFT? And I can't remember what time they said now, because it's over a year ago, but it was a time that I was on time for, and maybe just a few seconds ahead. And they were like, he's like going to get an elite time here. And then Paul, as soon as he heard that, he was like, Ollie, go! He was screaming his head off. And then I got to the final wall ball. So I was like, what do you mean? He goes, you're going to get like an elite time. He's like, just go.
Yeah.
And just before we did the workout, we were told whoever wins our little gym tour gets a pair of Puma trainers. So then I was like, right, here we go. And I was going to do anything I could to get them. And I will say they're not the best Puma trainers, but it's free stash, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
So I've just moved through that, and then they said to me, I did ask them about the hyrox event, and because they have different categories, obviously, and they said sign up to the pro, like we think you'll do pretty well. Wow. And so I signed up to the pro. We had a bunch of other people from our gym that signed up to it as well, and we went down to, is it the NEC? Yeah, the NEC.
Yeah.
And I remember setting off, and they was do it in waves and heats, and the heat ahead, I think they might have set off maybe 10 minutes before. And I had a couple friends in there as well, who were still like they're good. That we were all CrossFitters, and they were sort of like they're in the kind of CrossFit game. So, and there's this huge workout that CrossFitters don't really go past 30 minutes that often. And this is like a big, much bigger than what we usually used to. And I remember catching up maybe after like 2 or 3 runs, and I caught up with the heat ahead of me. Wow. And I was thinking, have I missed a lap here? Or like, I thought I was like running hard, like a decent pace. And then I was like, have I missed it? Like, you're not too sure because you're like so disorientated, like, where am I kind of thing? Because everyone's just absolutely going crazy around this arena. And then I found out, no, I was still on goal sort of thing, and then hitting all the workouts. But you still question yourself, don't you? You're like, have I like done one less lap and just come back into the rock zone, they called it, to do whatever next station? And ended up, I didn't even have a clue where I positioned. I just finished it and thought, oh, that was tough. And, like tough. I was cramping and everything. I was like, I'd never done anything like that before. And then we stayed for the ceremony just because we were all just hanging out anyway. And they called up 3rd place. And I looked at this 3rd place guy. I was like, I lapped him. I was like, I remember beating him. I was thinking, okay. And then they called up 2nd, and then I remember going past him. I was like,
No way.
hang on. I was like, does that mean? And we're all just like, nah, we didn't think that I'd won it. And then they called my name out. I was like, oh shit.
Wow. So you
So
didn't
then,
actually know you'd won it
no, I
after?
had no clue. I
Wow.
was literally, if we didn't hang around to watch, like I would have gone home, and then I wouldn't have got. It was such a nice little opportunity to go up onto the stage, and like when they presented you with the flag, got a free hoodie as well, and
Nice.
then they said you've won a place in Vegas. I was like, oh.
Wow.
And then there's me thinking, do they pay for this? And they don't pay for it. So I went back over and I was like, Mum, I've won a place to Vegas, but we've got to pay for it.
So what was going through your mind, Nick? Because I think if you had, it sounds like you didn't really take it as serious, maybe as maybe others would have. Do you think if you went in with the approach of like, I need to like win it and I need to like, do my best, do you think you would have had a different outcome maybe? Or do you think you would have, what's your thoughts on that?
I think no, I think I trained all right for it. I mean, I could have I think you always say I could have prepared even more, but I think anyone's always going to say that. So I think for where I was at, I was in a decent place, but knowing the event, like knowing how hard to push on different stations and stuff like that, like I went full throttle on the sled push, and there's a video of me just like sprinting with it stupidly because it was the second station, but I just like overtook the two guys ahead of me. I was just like, everyone was like, oh my god, but I thought it was only there and back with the sled. And then when I pushed the one length, I got everyone's attention, and then I said to the guy goes, well done mate, you got 3 more lengths. I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean? I thought it was just there, and then I push it back, and he goes, no, you got to go back, and then back and back. I was like, oh god, and my whole world just went whoa.
Wow.
And I think somebody's got a camera recording and just can sort of see my lips reading, I just update. My heart was just like pounding.
Wow.
I was like, oh god. And then I was like, this is gonna suck now. This is gonna really suck. I was like, you're an idiot, Ollie. You're a flipping idiot.
No way. That's crazy, man. That's mad. So obviously,
yeah, so just getting a bit more used to like the workout. Now I've done it 2 or 3 times. I've only done it twice actually.
Yeah,
I sort of know it now, and I'm like, right, I know how to pace it, and know where I can push and where I need to hold back.
Brilliant, man. So what was it like? Obviously, you were announced as the winner. What was going through your mind at that point then? Like, you just won this thing. It's the first time you've ever done it. What was it like for you at that time?
Oh mate, it's brilliant. It was I was on cloud 9. It was just I'd not won anything for like personal achievements for quite a while. So it's a bit of like an ego booster, and you're just like, right, I want to put a bit more focus into this and stuff. But when I say that, I ended up just like I still love doing everything. I'm still running all my like distances and whatnot, even though it does go quite well with the hyrox. But I was like, right, I could do quite well at this, and I was like, right, let's start training towards this, and it was just great fun. And then meeting all you guys, I feel like my fitness family's just gone like this. It's like right out here now. It's not just the CrossFit gym, it's over at Forders, and getting great friends with all the guys over there.
No, brilliant, man. Brilliant. We're just checking the time. Just want to finish off on just a little bit on the experience of going out to Vegas. What was that like? How did that go?
Oh, Vegas, baby. It was brilliant. It nearly didn't happen.
Really?
Because I don't know if you've seen, but I missed my flight going out there.
I think you mentioned,
I was catching the coach from Birmingham to get to Heathrow, and there was a big old crash on the motorway. So I was stuck on this like horrible hot coach for like, I want to say 5-6 hours. And then I'm like looking at the time, I'm like, nah, there's no way I'm making this flight. And I was gonna get there like a good 3 hours before if it was on time. So I ended up just missing it. Stayed overnight in London, and then got the next flight in the morning. Fortunately, I've got insurance, so that was a godsend. And
Wow.
and then yeah, got out there, and I'd never been to Vegas, so that was an interesting experience. I did it in literally, it was a weekend in Vegas basically. But you know what? I didn't have jet lag or anything out there. I felt great.
Mhm.
I was ready. Obviously, I did, like, another long story about my foot just not being quite up to standard, but you know, I was going to do it anyway.
Mhm.
And my fitness was good. It was just like making sure my foot could just hold up just for
Mhm.
another like 8 to 10k run. And
Wow.
yeah, the experience of being in the state in the Vegas sort of stadium, the convention center, wasn't it? And yeah, it was brilliant. And then watching all the elite 15 guys on the night, which are the top 15 guys of the whole hyrox, I
Mhm.
was like, that's what I want. It was
Mhm.
almost like an epiphany, and I was like,
Mhm.
it was almost like back when I was watching the Rich Froning documentary. I was like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
And then I've had it again with this, like seeing Hunter absolutely smash it, and I'm like, right, this is something that I know I'm quite good at, and yeah, I want to go full throttle with it. So yeah, looking forward to this next season of hyroxing.
No, brilliant. Yeah, that sort of brings me on to the next question. What can we expect going forward now? What's the future hold for Mr. Ollie Russel?
I think definitely the next few years are going to be all aimed towards this hyrox.
Yeah.
Yeah, all aimed towards this hyrox. I want that elite 15, and I think it's achievable.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's definitely achievable. And then who knows, getting, you know, whether I get into that elite 15 and get into a podium finish, and then maybe another couple years, there's that world record that's out there, which is anyone's to take. But that will take some serious training, and
Mhm.
yeah, that's on my mind. That's on my mind
Brilliant.
at the minute. So yeah.
Brilliant, man. Really good stuff, man. I mean, I could go on for another hour to be fair, Ali, but I know you're pushed for time. If you had to say, then it sounds like, one thing that stands out for me when you're saying that is planning. How important is planning for things like this, and even just in general for like people who are looking to get into fitness and look after their health? How important is not only planning, but just thinking about your story, keeping that discipline, keeping that focus? How important are those things, and how do they tie together?
Yeah, great question. It's planning is like planning and consistency with your
Mhm.
planning. So it's just about making sure you've got this like brief plan of like how you're going to get from like we've been saying from A to B,
Mhm.
but then just being flexible with your plan as well, because like you'll know with some of the guys like myself, Darren, Laura, other people getting injured, you have this
Mhm.
plan, it's never going to go to that plan, so you
Mm.
have to be flexible about changing it. But if you've got this brief sort of like um whether it's a 12-month plan, a 6-month plan, 3-month plan, if the brief plan is there and you're consistent with it, and you're open to being flexible with it, that's where you want to be, because you can be really regimented on it, but you got to also listen to your body. And if you're overdoing it, if you listen to your body, your body's saying like, I'm fucked,
Mhm.
you need to then change something inside this little weekly plan you've got over this phase of training. Because let's say you're doing a heavy leg session on one day, and then the next day you're into like a big running session. For some people, just being able to do that, you might need to have an extra day in the middle just to rest before you can hit a good running session. So
Mhm.
it's just about trying to stay injury free and be flexible, and yeah, just holding consistency and just have fun with
Mhm.
it as well.
Brilliant, man. Brilliant. That's really good, man. And so we'll wrap it up in the sense of, where can we find you, Ollie? How can we get in touch if we want to?
Rusell Performance Training up on the Instagram. Yeah, up
Brilliant.
on the
Brilliant.
Instagram, Rusell Performance Training. And if guys have any questions about anything, whether it's hyrox related, performance in their sport, just yeah, ping me a message. I'm a friendly guy.
I'm sure you are, mate. You definitely are. Well, I appreciate your time, Ollie. Thanks for joining me on this podcast, man. It'll be going up very soon on our YouTube channel. But yeah, cheers, man. Thank you very much for
No,
your
cheers.
time.
Thanks for having me.
Take care, man. See you later.
Cheers, mate.
Bye bye.